Hello everyone, welcome to the lecture on power system protection. Today we'll be dealing with module 2, abnormalities and faults in feeder or the line. So as the length of the electrical power transmission is generally long, so the probability of occurring of the fault in the transmission line which are open to the atmosphere is much higher than that of the electrical power transformers and the alternators. The faults in the feeder or the line can be an overload fault, it can be an earth fault, and it can be a line to line fault. Now, what are the requirements of a line protections? So, the requirement of the line protections are in the event of a short circuit, the circuit breaker closest to the fault should open, all other circuit breakers remaining in a closed position. In case of nearest breaker to the fault fails to open, the backup protection should be provided by the adjacent circuit breakers. The last one, the relay operating time should be just as short as possible in order to preserve the system stability without unnecessary tripping of the circuits. Time graded over current protection on a transmission line. Now, in the scheme of overcurrent protection, the time discrimination is incorporated. In other words, the time setting of relay is so graded that in the event of faults, the smallest possible part of the system is isolated. So, the overcurrent protective scheme are widely used for the protection of distribution line. In case of a radial feeder, there are two or more overcurrent relays which are used. One relay for the protection of each section of the feeder. Now, you can see the figure over here. So, if a fault occurs at C or if the fault occurs beyond C, the circuit breaker at substation C should trip. The circuit breaker at A and B should not trip as far as the normal operation is concerned here. So if the relay C fails to operate, then the circuit breaker at B should trip as a backup protection. So similarly, if the fault occurs between B and C, the circuit breaker at B should trip as it is a radial feeder. So the power source is from this side, from the left hand side. Therefore, the fault is occurring from the source itself. Therefore, the fault, if the fault occurs between B and C, so the relay or the circuit breaker B should trip off, but the circuit breaker at A will not trip. Now, the main characteristic of a radial system is that the power can flow only in one direction, from the generator or the supply end to the load. It has this advantage that the continuity of supply cannot be maintained at the receiving end in the event of fault. The time graded protection of a radial feeder can be achieved by using a definite time relay and an inverse time relay. Now, using a definite time relays. So this is a circuit over here, this is the generating station, and these are the circuit breakers A, B, C, D, and it has different timings. A has 2 seconds, B is 1.5 seconds, C is 1 second, and D is 0.5 second. So D has the lowest time second, that is 0.5, and the circuit breakers C, B, A are increased by a 0.5 second. So the figure shows the overcurrent protection of a radial feeder by a definite time relay. The time of operation of each relay is fixed here. As you can see, the time of operation of each relay is fixed by the seconds which they have mentioned, and it is independent of the operating current. Thus, the relay D has the operating time of 0.5 second, while the other relays, the time delay is successively increased by 0.5 second, as you can see. Now, if the fault occurs in the section DE, if the fault occurs over here, it will be cleared in 0.5 second by the relay and the circuit breaker at D, because all other relays are having a higher operating time. Now in this way, only the section DE of the system will be isolated. If the relay at D fails to trip, then the relay at C will operate after a delay of 0.5 second, that is after 1 second from the occurrence of the fault. So the relay D has a 0.5 second operating time, relay C has an operating time of 1 second. If relay at D fails to trip, then the relay C will operate after a time delay of 0.5 second, that is after 1 second. The disadvantage of this system is that if there are a number of feeders in series, the tripping time for the faults near the supply end becomes high. 2 seconds in this case. It can go to A, the relay A or the circuit breaker A. However, in most cases, it is necessary to limit the maximum tripping time to 2 seconds. This disadvantage can be overcome to a reasonable extent by using an inverse time relay. So let's see how the radial feeder will work using a inverse relay time. So the figure shows the overcurrent protection of a radial feeder using inverse time relay, in which the operating time is inversely proportional to the operating current. So they are inversely proportional to the operating current. With this arrangement, the farther the circuit breaker from the generating station, shorter is its relay operating time. So the circuit breaker which is very far away from the generating station will be having a shorter operating time for the relay. Now the three relays at A, B, C are assumed to have an inverse time characteristic. A fault in section BC, as shown in the figure, will give a relay time which will allow the breaker at B to trip out before the breaker at A. Current graded system. The relay are set to pick up at progressively higher values of current towards the source. In this scheme, they are utilizing instantaneous overcurrent relay. The operating time is kept the same for all the relays A, B, C, used to protect the different section of the feeder. Ideally, the relay at B should trip for a fault anywhere between B and C, but it should not operate for the faults beyond C. Similarly, the relay at A should trip for the faults between A and B. The relay at C should not trip for the faults beyond C. This ideal operation is not achieved due to the following reason. The relay at A is not able to differentiate between the faults very close to B, which may be on either side of B. Now, if the fault in the section BC is very close to the station B, then the relay at A understands that it is in the section AB, as the fault is near to B. This happens due to the fact that there is a little difference in fault currents if a fault occurs at the end section AB or in the beginning of the section BC. The magnitude of the fault current cannot be accurately determined as the circuit parameters may not be known. During a fault, there is a transient condition and the performance of the relay is not accurate. Combination of current and the time grading. This scheme is widely used for the protection of distribution line, whereas both the time grade and the current grade are used in transmission line, but the combination of the current and the time grade are most widely used in the protection of distribution lines. Here IDMT relays are employed in the scheme. They have combined feature of current and the time grading. IDMT relays have current as well as time setting arrangement. So the current setting of the relay is made according to the fault current level of the particular section to be protected. So So the relays are set to have some pickup value progressively at higher current level towards the source. Time setting is also done in progressively increasing order towards the source. So the difference in operating time of the two adjacent relay is 0.5 second. Now we'll be looking at the direction relay or the reverse power. So here is the figure of an electromechanical direction relay. So this type of relay operates when the power in the circuit flows in a specific direction. So the directional power relay is designed in such a way that it obtain its operating torque by the interaction of the magnetic field derived from both voltage source and the current source of the circuit it protects. So there is a voltage source and there is a current source at the lower magnet. Upper magnet is having voltage source, the lower magnet is having a current source. Now it consists of an aluminum disc which is free to rotate between the poles of the two electromagnets. So there is an aluminum disc over here. So the upper magnet carries a winding which is called as a potential coil, as I said, on the central limb, which is connected through a potential transformer to the circuit voltage source, and the lower magnet has a separate winding called as current coil, which is connected to the secondary of the CT. Now the current coil is provided with the number of tappings connected to the plug setting. Okay. Now the spindle of the disc carries a moving contact which is going to bridge two fixed contacts. Okay. When the disc has rotated through a preset angle. Now the directional relay is energized by two quantities such as voltage and the current. Flux phi1 and phi2 are set up by the voltage and the current respectively. Eddy currents induced in the disc by phi1 interacts with the phi2 and it is going to produce a torque. So the resultant torque rotates the disc and the torque is proportional to Vi cos phi, where phi is the angle between the voltage and the current. So to produce the maximum torque during the fault condition, the power factor is very poor. Therefore, a compensating winding and the shading are provided as shown in the figure. Here, the torque T is equal to phi1 phi2 sin theta. Therefore, phi1 is because of I1 current, phi2 is because of I2. Therefore, T is proportional to I1, I2 and sin theta. So the interaction of the fluxes phi1 and phi2 with the eddy currents induced in the disc produces a driving torque. Therefore, the torque is proportional to phi1, phi2 and sin alpha or sin theta, I can say. Therefore, the phi1 is produced because of the voltage and the phi2 is because of the current. Therefore, the torque is proportional to Vi cos phi. Look at this. So this is the voltage and this is the current I2. This is I1. So sine of 90 minus theta will give you cos theta. Now induction cup. So it has two opposite poles energized by the voltage, another two poles by the current. Here, if the phi is greater than 90 degree, then the torque is positive, the power flow in reverse direction and the relay operates. If the value phi is less than the 90 degree, that is between 90 and 180 degree, torque is negative, power flows in positive direction and the relay will not operate. Therefore, for normal power flow, relay supplied by voltage and the current The reverse power flow, the relay supplied by the voltage and the current. So this is the main equation where you're going to get for the power relay and the induction cup relay. Directional overcurrent relay. So the construction details are, the figure shows the constructional details of a typical induction type directional overcurrent relay. It consists of two relay elements. One is the directional element and the second one is the non-directional element. So in the figure you can see this. So this part is a directional relay or the directional element, and this is the non-directional element which is called as overcurrent element. So here in the directional element, so the directional power relay which operates when the power flows in a specific direction. So the potential of this element is connected to a potential transformer. You can see here the potential coil is connected to the potential transformer, and the current coil is energized through a CT, that is the current transformer. Now this winding is carried over the upper magnet of the non-directional element. The trip contacts, that is 1 and 2 of the directional element, are connected in series with the secondary circuit of the overcurrent element. Therefore, the later element cannot start to operate until its secondary circuit is completed. In other words, the directional element will operate when the contacts 1 and 2 gets closed, and once this close, it will operate the overcurrent element. Now when the fault takes place, the fault current flows through the current coil of the direction relay, which interacts with the flux produced by the potential coil. Now the disc will rotate only if the torque is produced in a particular direction, which depends on again the direction of power flow, whether the current is leading or lagging the voltage. Now once the disc rotates, it closes the contacts of the secondary winding. Once the disc rotates, it closes the contacts of the secondary winding of the overcurrent relay, and hence the flux will be produced by the lower magnet of the overcurrent relay. So once this will get closed, this will get energized. So the flux produced by the primary winding of the overcurrent element interacts with the secondary winding of the flux, and the disc rotates and closes its contact to trip circuit if the fault current is greater than the pickup value set up by the plug setting. So this is how exactly the directional overcurrent is connected in series with the overcurrent element. So the directional element will operate fast, then the overcurrent relay will respond. If the directional element doesn't operate, then the overcurrent element will be not energized. So under normal operating condition, the power flows in the normal direction. Therefore, the directional overcurrent relay, that is upper magnet, does not operate, thereby keeping the overcurrent element unenergized. However, when the short circuit takes place, there is a tendency for the current or the power to flow in reverse direction. So once this happens, the disc of the upper element rotates to fix the contacts 1 and 2 which are there in the directional overcurrent relay or the directional element. This completes the circuit of the overcurrent element as the contacts are connected to the overcurrent element. Therefore, the disc of this element rotates and the moving contacts attached to it closes the trip circuit. This operates the circuit breaker which isolates the faulty section. So this is how the directional element and the overcurrent element are connected in series and they are operated. Now the protection of a parallel feeder. Here there are two feeders. This is the sending end, this is the load. The sending end have a non-directional relay symbol. So this is the sending end which has two arrows. Okay. At the sending end of the feeder load A and B, there are non-directional relays which are required. And at the receiving end of directional relay, at the end of the feeder C and D, they are going to place the directional overcurrent relay. Now, the arrow mark for the directional relay placed at C and D indicate that the relay will operate if the current flows in the direction as shown by the arrow. If a fault occurs at F, then the directional relay at D will trip as the direction of the current is reversed. The relay at C will not trip as the current flows in the normal direction. At the same time, the relay at B also get tripped. So in this feeder we are getting a fault. So because of that, the directional relay D will trip, as well as the non-directional relay, that is B, also will trip. Thus, the faulty feeder is isolated and the healthier feeder is maintained. If non-directional relays are used at C and D, both the relays placed at C and D will trip for a fault at F. So this is not a desired, as the healthier feeder is also tripped. Protection of ring vanes. So the figure shows the overcurrent scheme for the protection of ring feeder. Now, compared with the radial feeder, and the protection of the ring feeder is costly and complex. Each will require two relays. A non-directional relay is required at one end and a directional relay at the other end is required. Now, if a fault occurs at F as shown in the figure, the relay at C dash and D dash will trip to isolate the faulty feeder. Therefore, the relay at therefore the relay at C will not trip. So this relay C will not trip to isolate the feeder, as the fault current is not flowing in its tripping direction through its operating time is same as that of the C dash. So if the fault occurs at F over here, once again, if the fault occurs at F here, the relay at C dash and D dash is going to trip and is going to isolate the faulty feeder. So the relay at C will not trip, as the fault current is not flowing in its tripping direction, though the operating time for C dash and C is the same. Similarly, the relays B and D will not trip. B and D will not trip, as the fault current are not in the tripping direction, though their operating time is 1 second less than that of the operating time of F and D dash respectively. So the figure B is an alternative way of drawing the same scheme. In this figure, loads, though the present, are not shown on the buses A, B and D, so as to make the figure simple to understand. If a fault occurs at F2, then the relay at A dash and D will trip. And figure C involves the even greater number of feeders. So this is how the protection of ring vane works. Thank you.